today's In-Depth, we go one-on-one with Jamaica's new Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. It's Prime Minister Holness's first media interview following his budget presentation last Tuesday. Here's George Davis.
Andrew Holness has just presented his first budget as Prime Minister in his second stint in the highest office in the land. I've travelled to Vale Royal, the Prime Minister's official residence, to ask him two key questions coming from his presentation. One, what is the economic vision that he has for the country and how the JLP will achieve that vision? And secondly, how does he intend to make the country safe? Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for consenting to speaking with us. The budget presentation that was just completed has been met with strong reviews from the Jamaican public and even some members of the opposition, surprisingly. The message you wanted to communicate to Jamaicans through this budgetary process is what?
The baton has passed and we are on the home stretch. We are definitely putting together the programs that we had committed during the campaign. The increase in the income tax threshold, housing, the development of the Kingston waterfront, the digitization of government records, creating the base for a digital society, putting in place a system of national identification, water, all of those election promises that we made, we intend to keep them.
Members of the diaspora, Prime Minister, have a concern that is shared by the constituency that lives here on the Rock. And at the end of the budget process, new administration in place, they're looking and they're asking themselves, well, how does this Holness administration intend to make Jamaica safer for us who live here and for our families who live here and carry on life with the support that we send through remittances and otherwise? What do you say to them?
The government is very concerned about the levels of murders in particular and the general level of crime, though we must acknowledge that within the last 5 years, since 2010 thereabouts, we have seen a step reduction in crimes generally, but it is still at a level where it is impacting negatively on growth. Much of the crimes are generated by economic issues. People are unemployed. There are significant levels of organized crime. But we also have to contend with crime that is driven by poor social interaction, domestic crimes. And so the government's crime strategy has to be comprehensive. We have to continue dealing very strongly with organized crime with an emphasis on intelligence and disruption, and partnering with our international partners, the USA and the United Kingdom and Canada, to break those networks, because organized crime is usually multinational in nature. We also have to deal with the domestic situation, the interpersonal relationship, how we treat with each other and how we use violence as a tool to resolve conflicts. And you would have heard in my budget presentation that we intend to augment the resources of the police force to be able to assist, particularly as it relates to domestic violence, for early intervention, to prevent simple issues from escalating into loss of life. But as it relates to crime, which is locally driven, crime driven by economic and social motives, people feeling that they are excluded from opportunities and they have no employment, we have announced several programs which will impact, especially on young people, and provide them with opportunity, provide them with hope, so that they can make a choice to invest in a positive future rather than making a choice for crime.
In 2011, the Judicial Review Court ruled unconstitutional a set of proposals to amend amendments to the Bail Act under the 6 crime bills that were pushed through under the administration you were part of before. This decision sought to concretize in the minds of defense counsel then, this has put to bed the argument of arbitrary detention where bail is concerned, and so this means that no government will seek to meddle with the Bail Act. Your announcement in Parliament, though lacking the details, has started a conversation among defense counsel to say, well, why is the government going back here where the Judicial Review Court has already struck down any attempt to hold certain categories of accused persons for an arbitrary amount of time under the Amended Bail Act?
Which is what you have said. We haven't given the full details of what we propose to do. And the Attorney General, when she makes her presentation in Parliament, has those details. And we're still discussing it. But what is clear is that the judicial system and our legal system must help law enforcement in maintaining law and order in the country, whilst preserving human rights and protecting the rights of the citizens. And I think that there is a balance to be struck. I think the population is not at a point where they are looking at their government to ensure that the judicial system is working as fast as possible to bring justice to the people who have been victims of crimes and those who are the perpetrators of crimes.
Special stream in the court to deal with certain things, to expedite matters.
Well, that's a part of it.
But defense counsel say, Prime Minister, that is not even the answer. They say that what should happen is that the agents, the officers of the court, and the defense counsel and the prosecution, they are the ones whose sanctions need to be levied against for the role they play, whether it be delay of game tactics or other things that they do that causes the backlog in the court system, and that you're looking in the wrong direction.
Well, I think you've raised a very important point. So there is a backlog. And I'm not disputing or debating the fact that there are practices by the officers of the court whose effect is to slow up the process and create the backlog. But that there is a backlog is also a problem, and not entirely always the case of tactics employed. Sometimes it's a resource issue. What needs to happen from our perspective when we analyze the data is that the deterrent effect that needs to come from swift justice is absent from between the law enforcement and the judicial system. If a criminal feels that his case is going to take years before it is prosecuted and he's out on bail, what's the effect of that on his mind to prevent him from being a repeat offender? And indeed, what we notice from the statistics is that the people who commit crimes are usually repeat offenders. Many of the murders that are committed, when the firearms are recovered or when the bullets are tested, you will see that they are involved in multiple shootings and multiple murders. So that means that there is a high level of repeat offense. And the only way to do that, obviously to contain that, is to ensure that your justice system is working. And so that's the basis on which the proposal is made. And when the Attorney General speaks, you will see the logic behind what
But you know, I don't hear anyone arguing with the logic and disagreeing with the argument you've just proffered. But only that, they're saying that if your intervention is to be a precision instrument, why is it that you don't expend the time and the resources on the factors that would ease this backlog rather than that special stream, which they're adamant will not work?
I think we shouldn't criticize the suggestions by themselves. You have to see the entire package. And we have not presented the entire package. Indeed, I couldn't present the entire package. And so, which is why I was very careful to say the Attorney General and the Minister of National Security, both when they speak, which is in a few weeks, will give you the complete picture. What I have done was to pick out a few things which I know would pique the interest of the various stakeholders, because it is important to gauge what they think. But the special stream and taking a second look on the bail that is granted for persons who have committed murders both work together. Because as I've said before, what the statistics are revealing is that many of the people who commit crime do so with impunity. They feel that they can do it again and again and again because the court system isn't working. And we have to correct that with a swift, rapid and decisive intervention that will show them that the government is serious about justice. Justice for the people who have suffered being victims of crime and those who are the perpetrators.
On the point of justice, let me ask you about the issue of capital punishment, because your national security minister, in some quarters, was lampooned for suggesting that the government will take steps to ensure that hanging is resumed. Where the legislation is concerned, it's clear that hanging is a measure available to the courts if the prosecution asks for it, because it would be a crazy judge to order a man be hanged or a convict be hanged.
What the minister said,
yes,
is, and we had a long discussion about it. In fact, you know, this is a matter that is already decided. In 2009, I believe it was, or early 2010, there was a debate in Parliament about capital punishment, and the persons who supported capital punishment, that vote won. Mm-hmm. I did not vote for capital punishment. My personal view, of course, is my personal view, but I am obligated to follow the law of the land, and the law of the land is that capital punishment is available. As to whether or not it can actually be executed, there are a series of steps that it must go through, and it must satisfy certain requirements. And in any event, I'm not certain that there is anyone who is now at the Queen's leisure who would qualify for capital punishment.
I think there are 4 persons on death row.
But who would qualify?
Right.
Who would have gone through all the stages.
But the bigger question is, what message is the Holness administration sending if it makes those pronouncements that it is looking to have an effect on?
I think again it goes back to the point. I think it goes back to the point. I think Jamaicans are frustrated that people are committing crimes, and within a matter of days, literally, they are back on the streets. That people are committing murders, and there's no punishment. So the sense that the average man on the street has is that there is no punishment for crime. And I think what the minister was trying to convey is that the government is ready to take the steps to ensure that there is punishment for crime. Not that punishment will solve crime, but certainly the deterrent effect of certain justice must be reinforced. And I think that's the overall message that the government is sending. Bold steps towards bringing crime under control. My view, when I go around the country and I talk to people, is that they are tired of it and they want to see something that is going to change the paradigm.
On the point of changing the paradigm, Jamaicans everywhere, I know, are tired of reading that their country has one of the worst economies in the world. And you have spoken at length about a prosperity partnership that will shift that paradigm. The question emerges, as the Jamaican economy stands today, with the plans that you've prescribed, which are not all the plans I'm presupposing, how soon will the new economy of Jamaica start to take shape under your guidance?
I think the major change that has already been put in place is a change in the tax system. We have made a massive move from direct taxation to indirect taxation. And that circle has to be completed. We have to totally shift the population.
Why don't call it 1.5 plus?
It's 1.5 plus. That's what it is. It's the removal of income taxes on a significant number of persons who would pay income tax. So what that has done is to give the average Jamaican more money in their pockets. They can now have more disposable income. But parallel to that is what they do with that income. If they take it and buy commodities that require foreign exchange, then that money goes out of the country, really. If they spend it on consumption that is wasted in the short term, it would be of very little effect. But if they take it and invest it in buying a house, for example, or improving their house, or spending it on a business, or investing it on the stock market or on the junior stock market, these are things that are likely to drive economic growth and create the effect of an improvement in the general well-being. And this is what we are encouraging Jamaicans to do by, in addition to giving them more disposable income, by reducing the interest rates on mortgages and intensifying our partnerships with developers to build more homes at a reasonable price point. I think if the average Jamaican feels that there is a pathway to owning their home, a pathway to owning their businesses, a pathway to getting their education, then they will start to make the longer term decisions, which would be better for the economy. And they will start to make better decisions about their children, the number of children they will have, how they will treat with those children, how they will treat with their environment, because they now have a stake, what their community should look like, because they are now homeowners and not just renting. So it has a ripple effect through the society. And this is just one of the initiatives that we have announced so far. And there are several to come. And all of them will have a game-changing nature, moving us towards the prosperity that we all dream of.
So that's part one of our interview with the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, outlining his economic vision for the country. Stay tuned to Indepth for more on Thursday as the Prime Minister continues to articulate his vision for the economic prosperity of Jamaica.